From the headquarters of FtS English in Quito, Ecuador, this is From the South, and I am Soini Gray. Social movements in Brazil are organizing their first national protest in Sunday's elections against President-elect Jair Bolsonaro. The demonstrators began to gather at the end of the afternoon in Sao Paulo's main avenue. Hundreds of organizations have promised to step up their resistance to the rise of fascism in Brazil in spite of their defeat at the polls.
Why are you here today?
I am here today to fight against fascism in Brazil and all around the world.
As a woman, as a history student, and as a future teacher, I cannot accept in silence a president who spreads racism and sexism, who is in favor of more exploitation of workers. Okay, he was elected democratically, and I'm in favor of democracy. I accept that. But he needs to know that his government will be watched very closely by all the movements that he wants to destroy. He already made clear that he wants to do away with all activism, and we have made it very clear that this is not going to happen, that we will resist all his policies of hate and prejudice.
And our correspondent Brian Meir is at the protest in the center of Sao Paulo.
I'm standing underneath the MASP Art Museum in downtown São Paulo on Paulista Avenue, where shortly the first organized protest against Sunday's election and against the rise of fascism in Brazil is scheduled to kick off. Now, the protest was organized by two broad-based people's fronts that were created after the 2016 coup. One of them is called the Povo Sem Medo, and the other is called Frente Brasil Popular. Both of them are made up of hundreds of different organizations, social movements like the Landless Workers Movement, the Urban Homeless Workers Movement, MST and MTST respectively, labor unions associated with the CUT Labor Union Federation, the CTB Labor Union Federation, and students' organizations, and all kinds of different groups from around the country. So this is a protest that's going to happen in various cities across the country, and tonight people are still just arriving. There isn't much of a police presence yet, although that's expected to increase later. Most people are still getting off of work, and the expectation is that this crowd continues to grow until about an hour from now, people close off Paulista Avenue and start marching down the street, chanting slogans against Bolsonaro, like "Not him, Ele now."
In his first interview after winning the presidential election in Brazil, Jair Bolsonaro said he may treat social movements as terrorists. One of the movements he was referring to was the Landless Workers Movement, or the MTST. He said that he is not interested in having any sort of dialogue with the members of social movements. Bolsonaro also said that the new gun law will be a priority, as it will give citizens the right to carry weapons. He also said that he supports the privatization of state companies. The newly elected president also announced that he invited the judge, Sergio Moro, to serve on the country's Supreme Court. Now, Moro was the judge responsible for prosecuting former President Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva, leading to his imprisonment. Now, the judge hasn't given an official answer as yet, but he has already expressed his willingness to accept the offer to local media outlets. Earlier, I spoke to Ben Young. He's a lecturer at the University of Pernambuco in Brazil, who said that Jair Bolsonaro's derogatory comments about minorities are worrying.
However, I think there is very good reason for women, for Afro-Brazilians, and for LGBT Brazilians, and frankly for Northeasterners, to be seriously concerned. This is a man who said on several occasions that if his son were gay, the best thing that could happen would be that he die in a car accident. And one can only take that as a joke so many times, and he said it several times. So I think that it will be hard for him to have the heavy-handed approach that he says he will have.
The various migrant caravans traveling to the U.S.-Mexico border continue to persevere despite the hardships. The group that crossed from Guatemala into Mexico on Monday is now close to reaching the town of Tapachula, and thousands of migrants from Honduras, Guatemala, and El Salvador have decided to start the perilous journey fleeing poverty and violence, all while the United States threatens them with action. Our correspondent in Mexico, Pablo Perez, is following one group from the caravan, and he brings us this report.
Well, we're right here in the middle of the road between Ciudad Hidalgo, Chiapas, Mexico, and Tapachula, which is going to be the destiny for today's trip of the migrant caravan. This is a small group. It's only about 1,000 people strong, and they have chosen to stay here under the shadow of these tropical trees because the heat is too much for the mostly formed by women and small children caravan. Other group, mostly men, they have kept going, and they say, as far as we know, that they are already in Tapachula City, where they're going to establish themselves in the Tapachula's Central Park. They are gonna deliberate then what's going to be their next step. But they are thinking of taking one day off at Tapachula to regain the forces. Remember that just yesterday they crossed the Suchiate River with great risk and opposition of the federal police, Mexican federal police. So they are exhausted now, and they only want to get to Tapachula to catch a breath, and then keep on going for over 1,000 miles, which is the way they have to go until the next border.
We thank Pablo Perez for that report. Now, the government of the United States is to militarize its southern border to rebuff the caravan of migrants fleeing poverty and violence.
Deploying over 5,000 troops to the U.S.-Mexico border is Donald Trump's answer to the migrant exodus that has fled Central America. They want to enter the U.S. to claim asylum, but Trump's response has made experts feel uneasy, and they fear the outcome.
Those forces are trained to kill. Are they really going there to kill immigrant workers who are coming to file an asylum claim? That's a violation not only of those people's rights, it's a violation of international law. And yet that's the dominant political narrative in America: fear, paranoia, hatred, racism, xenophobia.
With midterm elections being a week away, the Trump administration's actions against migrants send a clear sign to voters.
Yeah, the politics of fear and manipulation are dominant politics now in the United States. The Trump administration has told the American people, especially through the media, that these a few thousand workers coming from Central America seeking asylum, which is their legal right to have an asylum claim, that they are an invading horde that's coming to take over America.
But it's much worse, as the thousands of troops are just the start.
That is just the start of this operation. We'll continue to adjust the numbers and inform you of those, but please know that's in addition to the 2,092 that are already employed from our National Guard Operation Guardian Support that's been so effective.
Protection of the nation from foreign terrorists.
Migrant policies have become increasingly hostile and intolerant under the current administration. Their so-called zero-tolerance policy has separated thousands of children from their parents between April and June of this year.
The Bolivian President Evo Morales has slammed the U.S. government's decision to send 5,200 troops to the Mexican border in an attempt to stop the migrant caravan. In a tweet, Morales said while thousands of Central American migrants escaped from hunger and violence caused by neoliberal exploitation imposed by the U.S. in their countries, Trump sends his troops to the U.S.-Mexico border. And President Trump has said that he is also planning to sign an executive order to end birthright citizenship. In an interview with local media, Trump said that the idea of people coming to the United States and having a baby to gain citizenship is ridiculous. If the executive order is made, babies born in the U.S. will no longer be automatically considered citizens. Days before midterm elections in the United States, young Democrats in New York are reaching out to eligible voters, which includes a large number of the Latino community.
Catalina Cruz is one of the faces of a progressive movement inside the Democrat Party, running as a candidate for the 39th district of the State Assembly of Queens New York, she's campaigning door to door to motivate Latinos to go out and vote.
Estoy aquí, soy de nuestra comunidad.
This is my way of saying that I'm here, I'm from this community, I need to listen to their needs, so I can be a leader, and also to remind them that on November the 6th they have to vote.
According to Cruz, a lot of Latinos don't vote because they are disappointed in the system.
For a long time, the Democrats and Republicans have taken the issue of migration, our community and the Dreamers as a political matter that they negotiate as they please without thinking what they are doing or how they are affecting people's lives.
Community activists highlight that a lack of information contributes to the indifference of the Latino community in the electoral process.
Even though some have information on voting, others don't have any information at all and don't take the time to look for it. So we try to motivate them and to give them information so they don't have excuse to not vote.
They have to represent themselves and think about their kids. If parents don't set an example for their children, they are going to remain in the shadows, and that's not fair.
According to social organizations, low participation is the outcome of several factors. One of them, the schedule of voting centers, which is not always suitable with that of schools. Also, ballot boxes are often set up far away from subway and bus stops. According to the Pew Research Center, 20 million Latinos are eligible to vote. However, in the last elections, under 7 million went to vote. Electoral participation of Latino voters changes a lot depending on the state. Latinos who live in Arizona and California are expected to see an increase in terms of participation. Other states with a large presence of Latinos are Florida, Texas, and New York.
We'll take a short break now. Join us again in a minute. Welcome back. Mexico's President-elect Andrés Manuel López Obrador announced that he's going to cancel the international airport project because it's what the people want. Instead, he's going to resolve the issue of overwork at Mexico City's existing airports.
The staple project of the administration of the outgoing president, Enrique Peña Nieto, is no more. On December the 1st, all work on Mexico City's new international airport will come to a halt, and the same day, AMLO is set to take office.
Se creará un sistema aeroportuario.
We will create a new airport system made up of Mexico City's international airport, Toluca's international airport, and a new international airport that will be built where Santa Lucia Air Base currently stands. This will allow us to serve anywhere between 60 and 70 million passengers per year.
During a press conference, AMLO announced the news, which was the result of a referendum that asked people whether construction of the airport should go ahead or not.
Personal interests will no longer be served. Corruption is over. This decision shows we have not buckled to any pressure. We're establishing a clear division between economic power and political power.
He also mentioned that dropping the project will save the government about $10 billion and will preserve the Nabor-Carrillo Lake.
This area needs to be made into an ecological park, an area that celebrates the environment and brings people together.
Meanwhile, the outgoing president said the Texcoco super project will go on until the last day of his mandate.
The incoming government will have to confront the payment of previous agreements and will have to deal with rising taxes for travelers.
There are 5 major business groups involved in this mega project, that is the airport, who all claim to have completed over 30% of the work. The incoming government say they will cover all non-refundable expenses of contractors.
Activists, academics and politicians in Colombia are protesting against fracking in the region of Magdalena. They say that while the nation needs to exploit its resources, they need to protect their natural water sources. The region's aquifers would be in great danger given the amount of water that is needed for fracking. At least 23 condors have been poisoned in Patagonia, according to an Argentinian environmental organization. The non-profit organization Argentinian Birds says a banned substance was used to poison Andean condors across the Patagonian provinces. In the last year, more than 90 birds have been poisoned throughout the country. Condors are a kind of vulture. They're the largest flying birds in the world, and their population is declining. New campaigns in Bolivia are promoting an end to gender violence. This is due to the high number of femicides that are being registered in the country.
Various government organizations have joined together to promote campaigns against violence to women.
There have been 100 femicides in our country. If we compare it to Spain, a country that has 4 times more people than Bolivia, Spain only had 48 femicides. That is less than half.
In Bolivia, an average of 100 femicides are reported per year. This means the violent death of a woman every 3 days, and almost always at the hands of their partner.
Ellas pueden ser nuestras madres. They can be our mothers, they can be our sisters, they can be our daughters, and it can happen to ourselves. We do not want to be killed just because we are women.
Men and children play an important role in stopping this. We have to be more conscious of protecting the rights of women. This must come from the family, the schools, the universities. It's fundamental that we change our culture.
According to the United Nations, violence against women starts in different forms: physical, sexual, psychological, but they eventually lead to death, which is almost always followed by impunity.
América Latina es la región.
Latin America is the region with the largest number of femicides worldwide. We have to be ashamed of this. We are the most violent region. Evidently, there is something we have to do as a region and as a society. Bolivia is the 4th country with the largest number of femicides in the region after Nicaragua, Honduras, and El Salvador.
Bolivia has established preventive legislation to deal with gender violence. It punishes 16 different types of violence. In 2016, the United Nations launched the Únete campaign with the color orange as its symbol.
Dominica and China have signed a $120 million Eastern Caribbean dollar economic and technical agreement. The news comes amid the United States warning developing countries against dealing with China. Now, Prime Minister Roosevelt Skerrit has dismissed suggestions that the island is being used by China to advance its influence globally. He added that Dominica has nothing to offer China but solidarity and friendship, and that those who heed the U.S.'s warnings are propagating foolishness. Now, 1 week ago, the Calypso world was thrown into mourning with the death of Winston Bailey, the mighty Shadow. The Trinidadian musical legend was laid to rest on Tuesday with a funeral befitting a Calypso king at the Queen's Park Savannah, which is the traditional staging of the annual Damascus competition, which Shadow won in 2000, making him the Calypso king of that year. Now, Shadow was conferred with the Doctorate of Letters from the UWI on Sunday, 4 days after his death. For his funeral, he requested that mourners wear white, in contrast with his traditional all-black garb as a performer.
Funeral of Bob Marley, and I'd throw him in the way it was a private Christian.
Think about it. This is a man who has stayed relevant for 5 decades. 70 to 80 hits. 80 to 90 hits. 90 to 2000 hits. And if he was here today, we would have had some more hits. That's right. Because that is the kind of fella that Winston Bailey was now. And I mean, I use the word was because I'm referring that to physical and flesh. But that man can't dead. That man immortalized himself in all the minds, Jed. That up to today, anything different is a Shadow vibes. And any baseline that bounces a different way is a Shadow vibes. You understand? We just talk about soca, but soca is drum and bass. Who is drum and bass? Shadow vibes. You understand what I'm saying?
Lovely tribute there to Calypso King by his son. We'll take a short break now. More news after this.
pueblos que resisten en cada una de sus luchas.
Somos esa ventana que se abre para visibilizarlos entre fronteras.
Thursdays, only on Telesur.
Welcome back. Foreigners are increasing their investments in Greece as the government has launched a visa plan that grants them a residency permit.
Lian
Wemnin is 29 years old. She was born in Beijing. She is planning to spend 250,000 euros in an apartment in Athens.
Here in Athens, with 250,000 euros, I can buy 2 or even 3 apartments. If I was in Beijing, I would only be able to spend the same amount of money in a 30 square metre single apartment. It's a big difference, isn't it?
Lians also wants access to a permanent residency, a visa given by the government to investors ready to spend 250,000 euros in real estate properties.
With the golden visa, I would be able to travel to more than 26 European countries. It's very convenient.
Lian is not the only one. There's a lot of foreign investors interested, real estate agents have confirmed.
Their main interest is to get the residence permit. After that, buyers get interest in investing even more, thanks to Greece's friendly environment.
Those buying properties don't use them for living purposes. They use platforms like Airbnb to rent it to tourists.
We see that every month the real estate market is improving more and more.
The increasing demand of real estate in Greece has provoked a price hike for properties that most locals can still not afford after 8 years of austerity.
Now in Greece there are more opportunities to make business. The most important thing is that Greece is a beautiful country. It has beautiful beaches and the weather is really good.
After almost a decade of crisis, Greece's economy is slowly recovering. Now the main challenge is that locals benefit from this, and not only the elites.
At least 5 opposition supporters in Guinea have been injured in clashes with the police outside the home of the country's main opposition leader. The police have gone to the home of Sialou Dialen Diallo to prevent him from joining an anti-government demonstration. The opposition has been protesting against what it calls a violation by the authorities of an agreement reached in August over the appointment of local government officials.
We need a government that respects the Constitution and the laws. Alpha Condé's government is a negation of the law and the Constitution of the Republic. Stop obeying Mr. Alpha Condé. He's no longer in the service of the people. He's in the service of a mob.
Time now for a look at some of the other stories making headlines around the world.
The United Nations Human Rights Agency has asked for international experts to be involved in an independent investigation into the killing of Saudi journalist Jamal Khashoggi. Spokeswoman Ravina Shamdasani insists experts should have access to evidence and witnesses. She called on the Saudis to reveal the whereabouts of Khashoggi's body so that a forensic examination and autopsy can be carried out. According to Shamdasani, it would be unethical for Saudi Arabia to investigate alone, given their complicity in the crime.
In order to carry out an effective investigation to determine exactly what happened, clearly he was murdered, but was there torture as well? Was there an attempt at enforced disappearance? All of this needs to be established. There needs to be an autopsy carried out on the body to be able to do a proper investigation, identify the full truth about what happened, as well as the perpetrators.
Bad weather in Italy has led to hundreds of brand new Maseratis being destroyed in a fire in the port city of Savona. Following a flood, salty seawater came into contact with the car batteries, causing them to explode and ignite a blaze. The exact cause of the damage is not yet known. Hundreds of thousands of Shia Muslims have gathered in Iraq's holy city of Karbala for the annual pilgrimage of Arba'in to mark the end of the mourning period for Imam Hussein, grandson of the Prophet Muhammad. In keeping with tradition, pilgrims beat their heads as a way of expressing grief. A roadside bomb killed 3 pilgrims.
We've come to the end of this news brief. For these and many other stories, you can find them on our website, telesurtv.net/English. And you can always join us on social media because we are on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. For Tell Us Your English, I'm actually Soini Gray, so thank you for watching.